So I decided to replace both diesel motor trucks, specifically with those that you see before you in the video. I had to find them first, and I wanted them to already be rebushed. I wasn't going to put vintage that had never been adjusted trucks back onto this train, and I was very fortunate to find two at Portline Hobbies. That's my starting point. When I put these onto the 470, I'm going to take 470s and send them to a new resource that's been identified for me of a person who, according to a couple of experts, produces the best. And not that Portline's doesn't, don't get me wrong, this is not slamming their work. It is to say that there is somebody whose core competency is this and does a great job. I spoke with one expert that said he has spent thousands of dollars with this individual to do just that, to constantly give him a flow of these rebushed trucks. I have to have a minimum of 3 to send, so I'm going to take the 2 off the 470 and get at least 1 or 2 more, send to him, and then I'll have to return to me a stock of at least 4 that I can use and move within my own locomotive set. Now, one thing about looking for these trucks, and I got these, of course, off Portline's, I've also bought one off of eBay, is to make sure you get the wide or large motor version. And by that, I mean, make sure that you're not getting one that was one of the first generation diesels, but the one which is called the wide or big motor. And you can tell that by the relationship between where the motor clamp fits right here and this trough up here where the ends of the field fit. And notice that this slot for the clamp is narrower than that trough right there for the field. If you get one in which the field trough is the practically equal width of this groove right here that the field clamp fits into, then you're getting the small version, and that would be one of the earlier versions of the Alcos. So that being said, just make sure that you look at that very carefully. I have not even begun work to disassemble the 470. To me, that's going to be the easy part. Disassemble, drop the truck out, replace it, and put it back together. At least that's the way I envision it. What has been the work is to process these two trucks to get them ready. Portline's rebushed them. Really nice, snug fit on the axles. No wiggle at all. This will be on the front. This will be on the back of the Alco. What I had to do basically was I washed them first, of course, with a degreasing soap. Once washed, and I left the old wheels on here, by the way, when I was doing that, I hit them with Advanced Auto Parts degreaser, brake cleaner, to get all the fine grease and old oil off, including the axles. Then I had to pull the wheels to configure the pull mores to exactly match what 470 has. Now, if these were mounted on the train, they would be exactly as the 470 has it. The commutator fits right here and fits here. You might say the commutators face each other in these dual motor Alcos. And on this 470, there's a pull more here and here. So I found that on this one, they were not configured like that. I believe this motor had a pull more here, and this one had pull more, either had 2 pull mores here or 2 pull mores here. I think it was right here. It had the 2 pull mores. So I had to pull all that off, polish the wheels, and I replaced the existing pull mores, which were the vulcanized type, with the type that I prefer, and that's the grooved with the slot where you can drop a new tire into. I've had a lot of good results with those. Got all that done, including the lubrication of the axles. Now, one of the things you can test if you get one rebushed and it's sent back to you is reassemble it like this, and then just push it on a surface that's resistant to these wheels. In other words, don't push it on a wooden table or marble surface or anything like that.
Push in on something that has resistance where the wheels are kind of sticky, and make sure it travels in a straight line. I have seen these that were rebushed that would not travel in a straight line when they were pushed like that. They would turn left or right. Well, that just tells me that the two axles are not parallel, which is the worst thing you could do. In order to replace the wheels, I use a vice grip and a dime. I'll place the dime here and I squeeze these on very gently. Now, to make fine-tuned adjustments to these, I use a small metal tube that will fit over the axle but put pressure on the wheel, and I tap it down until I get the perfect fit where the dime will slide but it won't move laterally. So I think then I have the right gauge set on the wheels. When you're pressing these wheels on with a vice grip, another phenomenon you may see is get a slight wobble in one of the wheels. Well, there's several ways that you can adjust that. I choose just to spin them so slowly, looking for any anomalies along that rim or along the flange, and then I put it back in the vice grip and gently maybe turn it 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn on the side that's high in the wobble until I get it down, and I keep going back and forth like that until I've got it out, and I get them pretty nearly perfect for use. So they're all cleaned. Every contact wheel has been cleaned and polished. The last thing that I will do on these, once they're right before I put on the side frames, is to clean each wheel with mineral spirits. They were cleaned initially through wire brushes and with 91% isopropyl alcohol. The main theme there was to get the old oil and grease, even the grease off my hands, off of them. The mineral spirits will put them in the best scientific position to produce the least amount of carbon burn on the railhead. Next up is I'll be putting the thrust plates, such as these, back in, preparing it to accept the armature, both of them to accept the armature. I'll then test the thrust of the armature. I like to have just a slight bit of thrust. I don't want the armature pinched in tight between the thrust plates, yet I don't want an overabundance of thrust. And I'll test that, and then they should be ready for placement.